Let us continue our discussion all about the earth and space, which is the Philippines' natural resources and its effect on the environment. Just like on our previous lesson, using latitude and longitude is not the only way that you can describe the location of a certain area. Another way is by identifying the natural resources present on it. So today, we will be learning more about the following. Number 1, the different types of natural resources, which is the renewable and the non-renewable resources. Number 2 is the energy resources found in the planet Earth. So this one. And number 3 is all about the protection and conservation of our natural resources. So this image. When we talk about natural resources, these are the substances that occur in nature. So, in other words, these are the materials that can be used to support life, and at the same time, it provides energy for living things to work and for the machines to run or to operate. Since natural resources are the substances that can occur naturally, it can be categorized into two. The first one is all about renewable resources. Renewable resources are those that can be used readily and can be produced or regenerated repeatedly by nature's recycling processes. So, in other words, these are the energy sources that cannot be depleted and are able to supply a continuous source of clean energy. An example of that includes the solar energy and wind energy. Another category of natural resources is the non-renewable resources. These are the resources that have finite existence which cannot be replaced or regenerated easily. So, in other words, it is a source of energy that will eventually run out. Most sources of non-renewable resources includes the fossil fuels, coals, oils, and natural gas. We all know that energy is all around us. It is found everywhere, and it is abundant. We get energy from different sources such as the solar, wind, geothermal, hydroelectric, and the biomass. But where does the energy came from? Actually, all the materials which living things need come from different spheres of the earth. Only one resource comes from the outside, and that is sunlight. Sunlight produces heat that moves the wind onto the surface and drives waves and currents in the seas and oceans. Sunlight is the power behind the various weather phenomena that we experience, and it also determines the climate of different areas on Earth. Sunlight likewise is harnessed to generate electricity. From among the different resources that sustain life, sunlight cannot be recycled. By now, you can say that you really know where the Philippines is. You can now describe its location in two ways, by using latitude and longitude and by identifying the natural resources that surround it. But are we lucky in the Philippines? Planet Earth is made up of different things: air, water, plants, animals, soil, rocks, minerals, crude oil, and other fossil fuels. These things are called natural resources because they are not made by people. Rather, they are gathered from nature. Sunlight and wind are also natural resources. We use all these things to survive or satisfy our needs. So, the Philippines is considered rich in natural resources. Why? Because we have fertile arable lands, high diversity of plants and animals, extensive coastlines, and rich mineral deposits. We have natural gas, coal, and geothermal energy. Wind and water are also harnessed for electricity generation. So we can say that the Philippines is rich in natural resources. Let us discuss the energy resources found in the planet Earth. The first energy resources is all about solar power. Solar power is the energy from the sun. So it means solar energy may become a viable alternative to oil as a source of power. Unlike oil and coal, solar energy does not pollute the air or contributes to global warming. Here in the Philippines, a town in Burias Islands, Masbate, is using solar energy to generate electricity. The next energy resources is all about wind energy. Wind energy or wind power refers to the process of creating electricity using the wind or air flows that occur naturally in the Earth's atmosphere. So, we can use the energy from the wind by building a tall tower with a large propeller on top. Then, the wind blows the propeller round, which turns a generator to produce electricity. In Bangi, Ilocos Norte, the windmills as high as 50 meters provides 40% of the energy requirements for electricity in the entire province. Geothermal energy is the third energy resources. Geothermal comes from two Greek words, geo meaning earth and thermal meaning heat. So geothermal energy is the heat derived within the subsurface of the earth. So it means that the hot rocks underground heat groundwater to produce steam. Holes are drilled down to the hot region for steam to come up. Steam is then purified and used to drive turbines for the electric generators to produce electricity underground. In some regions, the hot material is close enough to the surface to heat underground water and for steam. Geysers and hot springs are natural areas where the steam and hot water come to the surface. We have the Asin Hot Spring in Baguio and the Natural Saunas Resort in Los Baños, Laguna. The fourth energy resources is hydroelectric energy. It is the energy from the water. Hydroelectric energy is a form of energy that harnesses the power of water in motion, such as the water flowing over a waterfall or a water flowing over a dam. Hydroelectric power plants can produce a great deal of power very cheaply. Here in the Philippines, the Angat Dam in Bulacan, Pantabangan in Nueva Ecija, and Ambuklao Dam in Benguet are among the hydroelectric power plants in the Philippines. The next energy resources is all about biomass. Biomass is the energy from organic materials. It includes dead trees, leftover crops, wood chips, sawdust, rubbish, bark, corn stalk, and even animal manure. It means this process involves the gathering of waste materials to be delivered in a biomass power plant. It is soon burned in a furnace and the heat produced is used to boil water. The last energy resources is fossil fuel. It is the energy from fossilized organic materials. As mentioned on this slide, coal, oil, and natural gas are the three major forms of fossil fuels. They are formed from organic remains of plants and animals that died millions of years ago. Did you know when fossil fuels are burned, they release large amount of carbon dioxide, a greenhouse gas that traps heat in our atmosphere, causing global warming and contributes to climate change? How renewable natural resources can become non-renewable in time? Mismanagement and the impact of human activities can limit the regrowth of renewable resources. In order for us to conserve our natural resources, we need to use and manage the Earth's resources sustainably. So just like for renewable resources like herbs and trees, they can be used for food and for building houses, and they can be utilized in extracting medicines and other useful commercial and industrial products. For non-renewable resources, their utilization should be in ways that are not wasteful. It has to be ensured that enough quantities are maintained to meet the needs and demands of the future generations. Preservation, on the other hand, means protecting our natural resources from destruction and exploitation brought about by human activities. Environmentalists believe that the large areas of unproductive lands have to be protected together with all the organisms that inhabit those places so we will not lose our nature. Some of the Earth's resources are renewable and can be replenished by nature processes. In order to preserve our natural resources, we need to practice sustainability. That is, we have to control the rate at which the resources are being used.